Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Once again, today is Monday, June 8th, 2026. At this time, we are gathered for our Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources work session. My name is John Kafalas, Chair Pro Tem, joined by my colleague, Commissioner Kristen Stevens. Commissioner Shattuck McNally is out of town, and we have our County Manager, Lorinda Volker, and our Assistant County Manager, Lori Cadrich. We have at least 3 items on our agenda today. At this time, I will respectfully turn it over to our Director.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Leslie Ellis, Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources Director. I think we have a relatively brief session for you this afternoon, but we did have enough items that were timely that we wanted to get in front of you. Starting with our cable franchise agreements update, Todd Jurgens is here, and because this is a topic that you don't hear about except for maybe every 5 years or so, we just wanted to spend a little bit of time to explain to you what it is and what you can expect to see on some upcoming admin matters agendas. Also, David Arrow is here in case you have any legal questions about the topic, but I'll turn it over to Todd. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Todd Jurgens, Road and Bridge Director. Cable franchise agreements are something that the county has had in place with cable TV providers. They do not cover broadband. They do not cover telephone. They're restricted to cable TV services in unincorporated Larimer County. These agreements have historically been with Comcast and TDS, the 2 providers that provide the bulk of the service in unincorporated Larimer County. In 2018, the agreements were updated. They were 7-year agreements, so they're up for renewal again. In 24, Connection and Pulse, so the City of Fort Collins's provider Connection and Loveland's Pulse signed franchise agreements with the county as they started to move into some unincorporated areas. We knew in 24, when you all signed those agreements with Connection and Pulse, that they would need to be redone in 2026, but we needed to get them under a franchise agreement. The law requires that all of the agreements be substantially similar, so we've updated these agreements to comply with some new federal laws. It's the Cable Communications Act from 1984 that authorizes the county to require a franchise agreement. The revenue from those agreements is 5% of the gross revenue generated in unincorporated Larimer County. Revenue's the same. That's 5% is the same for all 5 agreements. So we have 2 agreements with TDS, one for the Estes area, one for the Fort Collins area. We have an agreement with Comcast and then Connection and Pulse. That revenue that is roughly $275,000 a year in total comes to the Road and Bridge Fund. In addition to that agreement fee of 5% of gross sales, there's what's called a PEG fee, and it is a fee charged to cover the cost of providing educational and public television. So we broadcast as a county on Fort Collins's channel, and we have a cost associated with providing the hardware to make that happen. I'm not going to try to understand how that all happens, but we have an agreement with Fort Collins that allows us to do that. Those PEG fees do not come to Road and Bridge. Those go to the Commissioner's office, and Michelle Bird manages that process. But those fees are restricted. They can only be used to cover the cost of providing that public and government channel. The agreement fee that comes to Road and Bridge is unrestricted, and the county has the ability to spend that however they like. And many years ago, the board made a decision to apply those funds to Road and Bridge. So these agreements are substantially similar to what they've been in the past. Some of the bigger differences, because cable TV services are on the decline, we were asked to put a clause in the agreement that allows each of them to cancel the agreement if the subscriber base falls below 100. I don't see that happening, and I don't think they do either in the next 7 years, but it is declining as streaming services become more and more popular. The revenue has declined, but there is a clause in there that now allows the agreement to be canceled if that subscriber base drops below 100. The PEG fees, the fees that cover the cost of providing that government broadcast, the last agreement in 2018, they were 50 cents per subscriber. They're now 1% of gross revenue. So we expect the revenue from those PEG fees to go up. It's not substantial, but we do expect the revenue that'll come in under the PEG fee to come up from what we were collecting at the 50 cents per subscriber. I think another maybe substantial change in the past, the security, the surety that was posted as a part of the agreement was $5,000. It's now $50,000. $5,000 was fairly outdated. It doesn't cover much in today's world. And what that does is it allows the county to assure that they're performing under the contract, that they're meeting the construction requirements that are in the contract, that they're restoring private properties. We have a remedy if the grantee doesn't perform under the agreement. And that's really the other substantial change. We made some fairly robust changes to the right-of-way and construction clauses in the contract, requiring minimum buried depths, requiring them to relocate in a timely manner in advance of capital projects, and then allowing the county, if the cable provider does not relocate in advance of a capital project, there's clauses that allow us to recover any third-party damages that we would incur from a general contractor. So again, all 5 agreements are substantially the same. There are a few clauses in the contract for Connection and Pulse because they're government entities and have governmental immunity, and some things that apply to them that don't apply to Connection, or Comcast or TDS. But outside that, those agreements are similar across all 5. I'm anticipating bringing those to the board as a package with all 5 agreements at the same time, as soon as we get all 5 of them signed. So I think, I was just talking with David, I think we have 2 of the 5 signed agreements in hand now. Connection and Pulse are working their way through the councils, and Comcast, we had a signed agreement, figured out it was the wrong agreement, was dated, they just off by a month, there'd been a revision made, so they're re-signing, but in the next week or 2, I expect those to come through the board for signature. That's a quick and dirty, high-level synopsis.
Thank you very much, Todd. Commissioner Stevens, questions, comments?
I just have one question. So with Connection and Pulse, aren't there services over the top? Aren't they internet? They're not, are they cable? Technically cable? I mean, they're technically delivered, I think, through the internet, almost like any other kind of over-the-top service would be, like a streaming service would be. So I guess I'm confused why they are like, I mean, I know because I have that service. I have a Connection like TV service, and it's not cable based. It's through the internet.
The bulk of their services are over the top streaming type services. I'm not going to remember the details of the conversation, but I remember having this conversation when those 2 came up because I had the same impression. And the result of that is they are providing cable, traditional cable, to certain customers.
Oh, okay.
And so hence the franchise agreement, they understand we have to treat everyone the same. when it comes to those franchise agreements. And my understanding again is that they are providing some traditional cable to certain customers.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I don't need to go too deep in the weeds. I just was curious about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anything else? I have a couple of questions, Todd, and team. So regarding the 5 entities that we have to have the signed agreements, would you further clarify, possibly for my benefit, when we have Fort Collins, like we're broadcasting now, that's through Fort Collins TV. So does that fall under the agreement with connection, or am I misunderstanding something?
no. So that is a standalone, separate agreement that we have with the city of Fort Collins
Okay.
to cooperate on providing broadcast services for our meetings.
Okay.
But it is not, it's addressed in this agreement that the cable provider do what they need to do on their end, but we have a standalone agreement with Fort Collins outside this and not tied to connection.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
And
Did you
that's
want
a-
to add something?
I will. That's a long-standing agreement the county's had with Fort Collins TV. So PEG stands for Public Educational and Governmental Access Channels. We've been receiving PEG fees for quite some time from TDS and from Comcast. And that does pay for the equipment that's used to broadcast these kind of meetings. Whenever we change out the cameras, whenever we update a room, that's exactly where that goes. We hold it. It grows a little bit over time until we have enough to do an improvement project.
Great. Thank you. I think just 2 more questions, please. And when you mentioned, Todd, about the declining use of cable TV services, I suppose I'm not surprised. When you said that if it falls below 100 subscribers, I presume, is that per company? In other words, if Comcast goes in the unincorporated areas, if the subscribers are less than 100 families or households, then they have that option to.
It gives them the right to just stop providing service in unincorporated Larimer County. Right now, because of this franchise agreement, they are required to provide service within their service area to anybody that requests it. Obviously, those folks have to pay a fee for the service. But if we get to the point where the subscriber base for any one provider drops below 100, that clause in the contract would allow them to stop providing service at all in the county and then cancel this franchise agreement.
Okay, and then my final question, sir, thank you. And that is, you mentioned the Federal Communications Act or something of 1984, perhaps. Has it always been that Road and Bridge, because when you showed up here to present about this, why is Road and Bridge presenting about this? But you've explained that. So I'm wondering if historically the unrestricted funds have always gone to Road and Bridge, or how did that come about, sir?
I don't have an answer. I can tell you in the 11 years that I've been the director, those cable fees have always come to Road and Bridge. I believe there was a decision in the mid-2000s to make that change, and it was an effort by the Board of Commissioners at that time to find revenue that didn't require the share back and get those funds into the Road and Bridge Fund. But I don't honestly know exactly when that occurred.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate your honesty. I don't believe I have any other questions. Is there something you'd like to add, Lorinda,
I'll just
maybe?
say Todd's exactly right.
Okay.
Because those fees can be used for anything. They could just go into the general fund. They're not ad valorem taxes, so they don't have to be shared back with the municipalities. And so at some point in 2009-ish, we looked at pulling any kind of fee that could help to fund road and bridge improvements and place those there. So that's how that happened.
Interesting. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, colleagues? Todd, is there anything else you wish to present?
I'm good, thank you.
We have our esteemed Deputy County Attorney here, who always handles these really exciting technical issues. But I think we're in good shape. Is there anything else, Leslie?
No, thank you. And as Todd mentioned, you'll see these on an upcoming admin matters consent agenda in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks
Yeah.
kindly. Good to see you, man.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, we'll turn it over to Rebecca.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director, and I have a list of updates for you today on several different items and dates coming up that I just wanted to highlight. So first, this afternoon's land use hearing, you have several items on the consent agenda, one item on discussion currently. We did receive a public comment, I believe, from an HOA on one of the items that's on on consent, which will be sent to you and printed out for you at the hearing. We don't know if that means the case will stay on consent or if there's a desire to pull it, but just a heads up there. The item that is on discussion is an appeal of some of the limitations on special events for the YMCA of the Rockies in Estes Park. You recently heard a similar appeal for Paddler's Pub, and so it's an appeal to the same provisions of the land use code. So that's what I have for you for today's land use hearing. Do you have any questions that will help you prepare for that? No? All right. Next week on June 16th, which is a Tuesday evening, we have an oil and gas outreach event happening in the Hearthfire neighborhood in the community park in that neighborhood. Wanted to make sure that the community is aware of that event as well. We mailed notice to about 900 homes in that neighborhood and other neighborhoods in the vicinity that have wells that will be plugged as part of the agreement with the Energy and Carbon Management Commission and the Orphan Well program. So the purpose of that event will be to share updates on those activities that have led us to the point of being able to plug the wells and provide information to residents and property owners who live around those wells for what that well plugging operation will look like, what they can expect in terms of length of time that equipment will be on site, noise, disturbance, anything else that may be associated with the well plugging, as well as the benefits to public health and environmental protection that will come from this project. So it's intended to be a event to celebrate the work that's happened so far and the engagement of our residents and property owners around these wells, and to give them more information, and there will be popsicles in the park.
Commissioner Stevens, any questions?
No, I'm just glad that, will city partners be there too?
Yes,
Yeah.
we will have Fort Collins City staff there as well, because that neighborhood is located within Fort Collins city limits, and they are a partner on this project as well.
And just to follow up on that, so will there be an agenda, or is it pretty informal? Are there any expectations of commissioners or elected folks saying a word or two? And it sounds like it's going to be outside. Can you say a little bit about how that's going to look?
Yeah, it will be outdoors, drop-in, open house style, no presentation or agenda, but we will have poster boards with information and the opportunity for people to talk with county staff, city staff, and staff from the Energy Carbon Management Commission at the state, who will also be there so that people can get any individual questions they may have answered.
So is your expectation of the commissioners, I think at least two of us will be there, two of us will be there. We should be there for the entire time, the 4 to 5?
There are no specific expectations for the commissioners, no need for prepared remarks or anything like that. And the event is from 5 to 7 p.m. And you can drop in or you can stay the whole time. Really up to you. It's intended to be a pretty casual open house style event. I can double check real fast.
That's right, you're right, yes.
Yes, 5 to 7 p.m.
Thank you. Thanks for answering my questions,
Absolutely.
Rebecca.
The following week, on Tuesday, June 23rd, Matt Lafferty and I will be going to the Timnath Board of Trustees, or sorry, not Timnath, Berthoud Board of Trustees meeting to talk about growth management policies, the existing intergovernmental agreement that is in place with Berthoud, and to talk about the process for updating and amending the intergovernmental agreement. Berthoud has expressed an interest in updating that agreement to capture an expanded growth management area boundary that was adopted with their latest comprehensive plan, and to add in other provisions to align that intergovernmental agreement with some of the others that the county has in place with other municipalities, including the ones with Wellington and Timnath that were updated most recently. So Matt and I will be going to that Board of Trustees meeting. It will be Berthoud staff who are presenting, and we will be there to answer questions and provide support and represent the county's policy work related to growth management. So just wanted to share a heads up there. The Board of Trustees can then decide if they want to pursue amendments to the IGA, at which point we would determine whether there's a need for any joint meetings between elected officials or, what the process would look like to amend that IGA. So we would bring more information to you in the future on what changes are proposed.
And this potential project, updating this particular IGA, I believe it's part of the agreed upon work plan for this year?
That's correct. We did include this on the Community Development Department work plan for this year, knowing that these conversations would be happening. Though we don't have, we're at this point really in conversations with Berthoud staff to understand what time frame is appropriate for this. And after we present to the Board of Trustees, we'll have a better sense of how much process will be needed and what the length of time for that process will look like. Yeah. Next up, in July, we will be launching a program that we have talked about that is part of the community development work plan for this year. That's a fee waiver program for accessory dwelling units. We often refer to them as accessory living areas in Larimer County, though the more standard terminology is accessory dwelling units. And you'll recall we received a grant from the Department of Local Affairs to pilot a program that waives building permit fees for those types of units in exchange for a deed restriction to maintain affordability of those units for a period of time. This program is being branded as the Backyard Boost program, since a lot of times these accessory units are in backyards, though sometimes they're basement units or attached garages or other buildings like that. We're excited to get this program off the ground and start offering fee waivers. It will be a first come, first serve type of program, and we will be bringing the staff who's working on that program in to give a brief presentation later this month at one of these work sessions. So more information to come, but wanted to give you a heads up that July 1st is the implementation date where we will go live with that program.
And a question and a bit of a shout out. First of all, my shout out is that thank you for attending the recent Red Feather Lakes community conversation. And once again, not surprisingly, you did an outstanding job presenting about this and other land use code topics and updates and everything else. So thank you for that. And my question is, based on the dollar amount that we have received from the DOLA grant, do we have an estimate of how many accessory dwelling units this may help encourage?
Yeah, we're hoping that this program will benefit 10 to 20 applicants, and it really varies based on the type of building that accessory living area is going in. Often with an existing building like a barn or a basement or a garage, the building permit fees are much lower than for a brand-new building that's being constructed. So depending on the type of construction that's happening, the dollars could go a little bit farther and benefit more projects or fewer projects if we're seeing a lot of new construction.
Thanks, Rebecca. Do you have more things to share?
I sure do. Just a couple more updates on other projects that we have going on. So I know you all are well aware of our data center regulations project. We have a moratorium in place on new data center applications. Because we've spent quite a bit of time doing research, collecting public comment and input, reaching out to stakeholders who have perspective on this topic. And we will be providing an update at one of these work sessions on June 22nd. At that point, we will need to determine what additional public outreach is needed, what additional work needs to happen on the code. The moratorium currently expires in August, and we are intending to request an extension to that moratorium to allow for more time to make sure we've had a thorough public process and really vetted policy options before the draft code is prepared and brought to Planning Commission and then the board for a decision. So you can expect to see that coming up at an upcoming meeting, likely a land use hearing, to extend that moratorium out another 6 months. We may not need the full 6 months to get to the point of considering code regulations for adoption, but that should provide enough space and buffer.
I believe I'll be away June 22nd, but I'm trusting you'll if I can ask for a one-on-one or perhaps at least the information from the presentation.
Yes, of course. Happy to follow up with any of the commissioners, with more detailed questions too. Yeah. Finally, you may have seen in the news that Platte River Power Authority is recently facing a lawsuit related to their new combustion natural gas turbines that were approved through a 1041 permit through Larimer County. And I just wanted to make sure that it's clear for anyone who's listening and for the board that lawsuit relates specifically to their PRPA's air permit from the state, not to their 1041 permit that was approved by Larimer County. So the land use approval is not what is being challenged in that lawsuit, though it does affect the project overall, depending on what the outcome of that lawsuit is. That's my list of items for today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions or comments, observations?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, well done.
Okay, I have the last item, and I also have a few updates, starting with one of my favorite parts of my role and my job is having a chance to interact with staff across the departments as well as the public, and two unlocked events that we've held recently thanks to Adri and the manager's office, but our staff teams. We had an unlocked event at the Road and Bridge facility back in May, on May 21st, and I think about 35 members of the public were there, and we had close to 20 staff from engineering and road and bridge. So I would just want to do a shout out to all of them who attended, the staff who organized the event and who gave a great presentation and showed the equipment and hosted a simulation financial game with the members of the public. And then, of course, the members of the public who participated and spent their evening to learn about local government and to contribute their ideas in that session. And then just last week, we had another event at Solid Waste. And similarly, we had, just great staff participation. It always takes half a day to clean out the maintenance building there and host the event and bring the equipment around so people can take a look at it. And so that was also well attended by the public, who really shared lots of very engaged questions and ideas and had a chance to tour the garbage garage and the household hazardous waste facility and learn more about our upcoming new facilities at solid waste. So again, shout out to our staff there who participated. Happy to answer any questions, but I know you're well aware of these events too and have put in a lot of ideas and thoughts to sponsoring them as well. So
Just a quick comment. I happened to be speaking with Adri, and she was thrilled to be able to sit up in one of the either compactors or one of those big heavy equipment
yes,
pieces
Yes.
of equipment. So she was excited about that.
good. Great. I'll move on. And then kind of in a similar vein, we seem to be working with partners a lot and regionally on a number of topics. I think the examples that Rebecca just shared, the well plugging is a good example of that, the event that's coming up. Similarly, the Poudre River Trail ceremony that's coming up, that of course involves partners from Timnath and Fort Collins and Windsor and Greeley, and you'll both be there. We'll look forward to that event. But I think it's just a great example of these partnerships being so critical to really achieving great outcomes, and especially with these projects that take a long time and sometimes many decades to effect. Similarly, we're having conversations with CDOT and Front Range, or the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We had a meeting last week to talk about Mulberry Interchange, and CDOT informed us that they are moving forward on some pedestrian improvements at that interchange. Nicole will be here at the end of July to do a traffic safety update and other transportation-related topics, and she can bring more information about Mulberry Interchange in particular. But that's another example of that work. Did you have a question? Oh, I'll move on. But so
I do actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just was checking with my colleagues, so I don't want to
Okay.
be out of turn too
Okay.
much. And that is, if CDOT is able to do pedestrian improvements on the Highway 14, I-25 interchange, why can't they do them at the Wellington one, which has been a concern for a long time? Is it because it's narrow or there's not enough space to put pedestrian
No.
crossing? That's a big issue up there.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think one is because the Mulberry Interchange has been at the top of the list for improvements for quite some time, and there have been a number of accidents at that location too, particularly related to pedestrian accidents. And so we can get more information and bring that back in July as well. So that, yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't mean to, please finish your sentence, but I also, it brings to mind, there was a story in the newspaper recently about CDOT beginning maybe this summer, the safety improvement plans on Highway 287. And as you deem appropriate, perhaps we can have an update on that sometime in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've been very good about coming and meeting with us and doing updates as they work on those projects. And I think it's been about maybe 3 or 4 months since we've heard an update. So, so more to come on that topic as well.
Great, thank you.
On solid waste in particular, of course, you're aware that the new facilities, North Landfill and the transfer station, we're planning openings for commercial haulers and members of the public on August 3rd now. And that allows Dwayne and his team to make sure that we're fully ready for operations and to have some time in the month of July to start to prepare the new landfill for the commercial haulers to arrive there. Of course, you're also aware we have an opening event with some partners in another week and a half, and that's by invitation, and we'll make sure that you have your information to be prepared for that event that morning as well. So we're looking forward to that. We have several agreements that you'll see from solid waste on admin matters on consent agenda tomorrow. And so I just wanted to bring those to your attention in case you have any questions about those topics. The first one is item 5 under agreements, and this is a grant from the Colorado Energy Office. And this is one of several grants that we're working on in solid waste. And this one will allow solid waste to focus on advancing priorities that extend beyond state requirements for diversion to drive emissions reductions and provide other benefits such as local resilience and air quality. This is a $515,000 grant from the Energy Office, Colorado Energy Office, and it extends through July of 2029, although we anticipate that the work will probably be done a year prior to that. So that's the first one, and I think this is indicative, too, of our kind of move toward more work around these diversion projects as we have our new facilities open, and those are really the backbone for many of these other programs that we're working on in solid waste. The second item is item 6 under agreements, and that's for temporary storage and delivery of water. This is a $6,000 payment amount, but what it allows us to do is have in place temporary water use to support operations and dust suppressions out at the North landfill for the next year. Our team continues to work on longer-term solutions as well, but that is something that we have in place more immediately. So that's the second item, in case you have any questions about those two. No? Okay. All right. And then I just wanted to highlight a couple upcoming work session topics. Rebecca mentioned a few of those coming up, but we've got the NOCO Humane Society contract updates coming up next week on the 15th, and then the data center project is on the 22nd of June. The ADU fee waiver program comes up after that at the end of the month in June. And then we have rubbish ordinance updates in July, updates on the ranch master plan and paid parking on July 13th. And then our transportation, traffic safety, and transportation capital expansion fee topics on July 27th coming up. So we've got fairly full agendas for the month of June and July. And as always, if there are any particular topics that you'd like to hear about from our departments, we can also arrange for those topics in future agendas. Any questions about those?
Do you have more to present, Elizabeth?
That's it? Nope.
Well, I don't have a question about those. I do have a question about, aren't we supposed to be having a grand opening of the great lawn out of the ranch? Can you speak to that, and is that already, I presume we're supposed to be there, and is that in our calendar, et cetera?
Yes, that should be on your calendar for July 31st. It's the opening evening of the Larimer County Fair event as well, and I believe it's from 5 to 7. I'll have to check the exact timing of that, but it's that evening of the opening of the fair event. So there'll be more to come on that. It's still a month and a half out, but there's a lot of progress that's been happening. I was just out there last week, and there's now sod and concrete in the hub area, and it's looking really great. So I think it'll be really great for people to see that for the fair event.
And it seems to me July 31st, thank you for mentioning that, is also the anniversary of the Big Thompson flood. And I believe we have events scheduled for that, but I'm sure there's not a conflict.
I believe there's not a conflict. Lorenda may know for sure.
Thanks, Leslie.
Or Lori.
There is not a
Yeah.
conflict. The 1976 flood commemoration will be at the Pulliam Building at 4 o'clock. 2 o'clock from 2 to 4. And then the ranch event,
5.
ribbon cutting starts at 5, so that
Okay.
you have an hour between the two.
Totally.
Works
yeah.
out fine.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you all. Well, those were both lovely presentations. Anything else, colleagues? Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, Commissioner, you were talking about the Wellington Bridge, and I was looking on my phone to verify, because I knew it was on the 10-year plan. The I-25 Wellington preliminary interchange design and pedestrian crossing are on the 10-year plan for Region 4, which is this northern region for CDOT. And they have identified $8 million from years 27 to 2030. And then in planned funding for fiscal year 2031 plus of $8 million. It is a $65 million project, however, so that is about half of the money has been identified. The other half has not for completing that project. So I think that we will, with CDOT funding being lowered, I mean, it could be dollars, though, that they can either, use, they maybe be able to, there could be some bonding that could help with a project like that, right? Or there could be, those dollars could be used to leverage other federal dollars potentially because it involves a bridge. There's more bridge funding actually in the proposed surface transportation reauthorization, quite a bit of additional funding for bridges. So CDAR does have it on its radar though, and has it in its plan. It's just, I think that getting the full dollar amount to be able to complete the project is still uncertain at this point.
No, thank you very much for that, checking into that, Commissioner Stevens. Do you have any understanding whether or not they could do a phased approach, like doing the pedestrian work, which it sounds like what they're doing with the Mulberry Exchange? I wonder if something like that could occur sooner than later for the Wellington Exchange or
And that's a
interchange.
good question. It
excuse me.
is a really narrow bridge, so I don't know how much,
Yeah.
without totally, I mean, $65 million feels like a total bridge replacement, but, but I think that they'll at least be able to get some of the design work done and with those dollars and other, Leslie may have more information.
Yeah, thank you for that update. There probably will be a need for some grants and partner contributions. City of Fort Collins, my understanding is they're applying for some grant money to help address some of the issues. And then what is unique about that particular project is there's also a big stormwater improvement component to it, and the project can be done either with or without improvements to address that. Those are some of the conversations that are going on now to look at how to address the project over time with CDOT and with the local partners and so on. So I'll make sure that we can bring good information at the end of July when we come and talk about transportation topics. And if there's any other questions that you have in the meantime or information that you learn that you'd like us to work into that update, we can certainly do that too.
Thank you, Leslie. It is a topic for folks up there. It's been an issue for a number of years.
Thank you.
Well, then, I believe we have completed our work, and joyously, I can say that we are adjourned at 2:13 p.m. And thank you to Cassidy.